Alright, so I reviewed 101 Dalmatians, the 1961 animated film, and then I reviewed 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure, which is a direct-to-video sequel to the original one, which is animated as well. And now I want to talk about the live-action 101 Dalmatians from 1996. And I have to explain which one this is, because there's 4 different 101 Dalmatian movies, which is really funny that they have this many, but I do enjoy that, because a lot of these I do enjoy. But the live action 101 Dalmatians movie is the live action Disney movie before Disney live action movies became popular. Because they had this and they had the Jungle Book like 94, which I have not seen and I want to see, but they did a couple of these live action Disney movies, but they weren't ones that really popped. Even though this one made a lot of money, this version of 101 Dalmatians, it did make a lot of money, but they didn't for a long time go onto the remake route until like 2010, where they started with Alice in Wonderland, where they started doing all these live action Disney movies, and this year we've got Aladdin and The Lion King live action, so I'm excited for those. But it took a while for them to gain their stride, and by gain their stride, I mean that they kind of just copied and pasted the original movies, just doing a live action, which I'm fine with. I don't care. I still love them regardless. But this again was Disney's first foray into remaking animated Disney films, or one of the first, because Jungle Book came out in '94. That live action version that came out. That's not the 2016 one, because that came out recently. Now, the story in this one is pretty straightforward, like the original, with little added story elements that I enjoyed. Like, Anita is a fashion designer, and she works for Cruella de Vil, who's like the boss of the fashion place. And Roger, this one's fine, but it's just kind of weird. It's kind of dated, but Roger is in a video game company where he creates he creates a video game that's a literal tie-in to the movie, but like a video game where this little kid has to rate it, and instead of doing music, he does that. He creates video games, which it's dated in the sense of where you're watching which console it is and what kind of quality graphics it is. Like, it's just interesting seeing that now. Even though I do enjoy that, it's a cool different plot point for Roger to have instead of being a musician. Now, Glenn Close is the star here. Like the original 101 Dalmatians, Cruella de Vil was the star in that movie. Glenn Close is incredible in this movie, and I think she is easily the best part of this movie. Honestly, I love her performance in this and in 102 Dalmatians. She is so fun, so over the top, but in a way where it plays so close to the original one, in a way where it really honors that original character in the 1961 animated film. That's awesome. She is so incredibly over the top and insane, and very very memorable performance. And she feels like just made for the part. And there's a line, like there's so many lines in this movie that are so memorable from her because they're so silly and over the top. But there's a scene where she's talking to Anita, and like Anita made they're doing a dress design, and Cruella wants to have the puppy's fur to make like a fur coat. And she says to Anita, like, you know what this means? This means that if I wear this dress, it would be like I'm wearing your dog. And then she just laughs maniacally. It's awesome. And I love her performance. It is so insane. It is genuinely so fun and so cool, like just how over the top she is. But it plays so perfectly to that original character in the animated movie. That's awesome. And it's funny to see this, and I didn't realize this as a kid, but Mark Williams and Hugh Laurie are both in this as the two bumbling guys who help Cruella de Vil out, like the original movie, where it's just funny seeing both of them in this movie, like, because they're big actors now, but it's just funny seeing them in this one whenever they weren't big. That's really awesome. Now, one of my biggest problems with the movie, and it's not like a negative, it's just like, oh, it's so obvious what this is that this is produced by John Hughes, who produced Home Alone, and I think he wrote Home Alone 1 and 2. Maybe, but anyways, regardless, he produced Home Alone, which after Home Alone 1 came out, everybody wanted to do that slapstick stuff where like people get into slapstick and get hurt and get in trouble like with things. And this movie with the dogs, whenever it's towards the end where like they're in this big mansion and like the dogs are thwarting the two bad guys that look like Harry and Marv, they are doing the same things like Home Alone, but instead of Kevin McAllister, it's these Dalmatians, and they're literally getting these characters to fall into traps, and Cruella de Vil falls into traps, and it very much is Home Alone, but with the dogs. That's really interesting. Like, it's not a negative, but it's like, oh, you can tell that that Home Alone immediately made this movie what it was. Like, they wanted to be another Home Alone, which is not a horrible thing, but it's just funny to notice that similarity to it. There's so much slapstick in it that it's just a big negative for, I think, a lot of people. Because the original one didn't have a lot of slapstick. It had some, but it wasn't, like, insane. But, you know, it kind of fits with the original having slapstick in this one. It's just more amplified than the original. And overall, like, this one... but even with that John Hughes style, like slapstick humor, like it's fine. I think that this is a totally fine live action remake, honestly. Like it follows the original very well, but it adds in some cool little touches, and I liked seeing this in live action. I like seeing Cruella de Vil because, again, Glenn Close was made for this role. She was insane, and I love her in this movie. So I really enjoyed this one overall. It's just a really, really fun... It's just a really fun time, but it's not one that I love. It's like... I feel the same way about it like I do the original. But maybe a tiny bit less so, but I still enjoy it. It was a fun time because Glenn Close really does sell this movie. That's the biggest point everybody says about this movie, is that she's so incredible, and she is. So I did enjoy this one on rewatch. It's just not one of those I watch a lot or love. But it's totally fine, especially with Glenn Close. So tell me down below what you think of the original or the remake of the 101 Dalmatians movie from 1996. And thank you guys so much for watching.